standing.
Welcome in to an episode of Cheese Focus Live. Do we have a crazy one for you? Harrison Butker just getting knee surgery, I guess. That's what happened. You would have think that Chiefs Bills happening on Sunday would be the number one story for this show, but that's not it. Harrison Butker is getting knee surgery, won't be out 4 weeks. We're definitely going to talk about that. And then Chiefs Bills on Sunday, it'll be the standalone game at the 3:25 window. We'll go ahead and talk about that. And yet somehow that's the secondary story. But anyways, my name is Quentin Morris. We got this running the show in the background. And now a guy who also just needs random knee surgery is the old man himself, JP.
That is true. Along with other surgeries. What's going on, man?
This is so strange to me. I've never seen this happen before because, he's never been on the injury report. I went back and I looked, and there was no even a day stint where it was limited in practice or full participant in practice, but left knee pain, right? Yeah. Nothing. This is so bizarre.
I don't know. From what I heard, he hasn't really said anything about it. And, he talked about having a little soreness in his knee, but he never skipped practice. He never showed any real pain. And then all of a sudden it was just too much.
Yeah. So let's get into what we know, what has been reported. This coming off of NFL.com. The Chiefs will be without Harrison Butker for 3 to 4 weeks. And that comes from Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. Both have reported that he's going to have surgery on his meniscus on his left knee. And the Chiefs will have taken Spencer Strider off the New York Jets practice squad. So I imagine I've seen the reporting, but I haven't seen it official from the Chiefs yet. Maybe it has happened. I don't know. That they're going to be moving Harrison Butker to the injured reserve. Yep. I believe that is twofold. It is one, because they expect to be out for 4 weeks. It's also because they need to make roster spot available for their new kicker. So you move him to the IR. You don't have to worry about anything like that. If you're getting surgery on your meniscus, that is one of the things that you can't really repair. We sort of talked about this when Travis Kelce got his knee surgery during the offseason. They just called it a quote-unquote cleanup.
Yeah.
And it basically, you've got scar tissue that's formed, and there's not a lot you can do to fix the meniscus. You just need to remove the dead tissue or the scar tissue that has started to build up. Yeah. But yeah, it's just crazy to me that he never once appeared on the injury report. We never heard anybody talk about this, that it's just all of a sudden we get the reports that, come out. I think at 4:00 today is when these reports started to come out, that it was just
it was actually earlier than that. He's done. I don't know when the report came out, but I got a call about 11:50 today. And then, they told me what they told me about him. And then not even 5 minutes later, a certain guy from a sports network called me and said that, he said, "Can you believe this?" And I said, "Not really." I said, "It's just out of nowhere." And he goes, "Yeah, it pretty much is." He said, "Guys never even hinted that he was out there yesterday practicing. He was out there today practicing until he stopped. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, he's literally not even on today's injury. I mean, I guess he is on today's injury report. He's listed as limited.
Yeah, so he was limited today. He did practice, but he was limited. And they just made the decision, let's just get it cleaned up.
But he wasn't on Wednesday's injury report.
No.
So, and the reason I think that this is something that's been there for a long time, because you wouldn't just go straight to surgery if he had just torn his meniscus. And that's because of the same reason we hear for a lot of these things, is that you have to wait for the swelling to go down, right? In order to get a good look at it, which means that this is not something that's brand new. He didn't tear it yesterday and they're deciding to get surgery today. This is probably something he's dealt with for a long time. And before our show started, Thiz brought up a great point, and it's that this is what happens when you play, 20 games a year for the last 5 years. You've played an extra season worth of games over everybody else.
Yeah.
And Harrison Butker has been a part of some pretty big kicks over that time frame. He's gotten a lot of extra work over that time frame, and so that's just one of those things that builds up. I just have no words for just how surprised I am for all this.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, the guy's pretty resilient to be able to hide it from everyone. I mean, pretty much what he did, he hid it from everybody. And who knows, this could have happened last year and he had the whole off season to rest it and feel okay. throughout, the first half of the season. And then it finally just, took it over. But hey, man, I guess this kid that we got is pretty good. He's good from 55 plus. Hopefully he can at least fill some shoes, until he gets back.
Hey, the last kicker we stole off a practice squad was Harrison Butker.
Absolutely.
So
I just don't want to replace Harrison Butker like we did. What's his face?
Was that Santos?
Santos, yeah.
Cairo Santos. The next 4 games. So these are the games that he's definitely missing. Could be more. It's obviously the Bills game. Then it's Chiefs, Panthers, Raiders at Chiefs, and then the Chargers come to Kansas City as well. So the game that he could be back for at the earliest would be when Kansas City goes to Cleveland to face the Browns. That is December 15th.
Yeah.
The soonest that he can come back. The week after that is the Texans game. So you hope at the very least he's back for that. Just because a lot like this game on Sunday, the Texans game has a lot riding on the lines in terms of getting the tiebreaker for playoff seeding. I mean, that's why this game is so important against the Bills, is that right now they're still in striking distance of you in the AFC in terms of, fighting for that first seed. If Kansas City wins on Sunday, they're 4 games over the Bills, and if they lose to them, you're 2 games. I mean, that's a huge difference. So
this
game is so important because if you're 4 games in front of somebody and you're over halfway through the year at that point, that's a lot of ground to catch up. And Kansas City would have to fall flat on its face in order to lose that tiebreaker. So losing Butker for this, when let's be honest, even this could be a game that comes down to the last minute field goal, or it comes down to you decided to kick a field goal in the second quarter instead of trying to go for a 4th and medium, and you end up winning by 3 points to come of that. Right? It's definitely going to come down to one of those games, and you're without the best kicker in the NFL.
This is a game that you definitely don't want to test anything. Andy doesn't want to. He doesn't want to use this kicker in a way that can end the game for us, in a bad way, in a loss. I'm sure they studied every kicker in the NFL that was available, and this kid was probably the best option. But I still wouldn't put him in this. This is the game of the year. This is a kid that was on a practice squad. So God forbid it comes down to a field goal wins it, and this kid's under that kind of pressure. Now, whether hopefully he makes it if it does come down to that. But if he misses it, it's going to be really hard on his ego, on his psyche as well. I mean, you step into a Super Bowl team from the Jets of all teams, and then you screw up or not screw up, but the jitters get to you or whatever the case may be, and you miss.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't come down to that. I really do. I hope we don't have to. I don't want another field goal game. Holy shit, I'm so tired of these field goal games. We need to actually, if we're going to win this game, we need to win the game. We need to not have to worry so much with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and we don't have to put all that pressure on a kicker or Patrick Mahomes to win the game for us. I just want us to actually win a game, like statement win. And I don't know if that's going to happen this week. The Bills are a tough football team. Now, granted, they've got a lot of injuries, but it's not going to be easy.
We'll get to that in a second. Spencer Strider is the guy they picked up. He was picked up by Indianapolis. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
He was picked up by Indianapolis. Has 3 extra point attempts and successes with the Colts. And then the Jets picked him up off their practice squad. He has 2 field goals made. One was in between the 20s, and he made a 45-yard field goal with the Jets. So, he's got a little bit of leg, but yeah.
Well, he's 100% right now. I mean,
that's true. Man, this is a rough situation to be in. You bet your ass that I made claims for him on my fantasy football teams, though.
I guarantee it. With all the things that have gone wrong this season with this team, injuries after injury after injury. I mean, it's just one after another after another. You'd think that maybe the injury bug was gone, but it like Liz said earlier, it's impossible for any team that plays 20 games a year for the last 5 years not to have injury, especially when you've got the same guys over and over and over again doing their and kicker.
He's been here since the first Super Bowl run.
He has. And for everything that he's done for us. I mean, you guys remember, I think, was it 2019 maybe? Or 2020, he even had more points than the entire Denver Broncos squad, just in kicks at one point. So it's hard. I mean, it's got to wear on him at some point. You know, the way he plants so hard when he kicks. It's it's insane how hard he plants his foot and his plant leg into the ground when he does kick. I'm sure that's, jolting, and no matter what leg you're kicking with or planting with is jolting no matter what. I mean, it's insane. He's not a small guy. Bucker's a pretty good sized guy. So I don't know, man. It's just a lot. We got a lot to think about now.
Yeah. And they put him on IR, which is a 4-week stint, but you don't know with these things, it could take longer for that to heal. So right now we're hoping for the 4 weeks, but yeah, this is this is just weird, really.
It's almost like the football gods are saying, we're really going to put you to a test this year, and you're getting the ultimate test, and that's what they've done.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Kansas City Chiefs injury report. There is some good news. Juju Smith-Schuster fully participated in practice today, so that's good. You could really use the firepower back into the offense coming up for this game. Everybody that was on the injury report earlier in the week is now officially fully participated. The only exceptions to that are Pacheco and Charles Omenihu, which were both limited, but it's good to see them back on the injury report, to be honest with you, because they hadn't been on there because they hadn't been practicing. So it's good to see both of them back on the injury report, both of them being limited. So good to see that. A lot of health to go around otherwise. But yeah, this is just a crazy situation. And like you brought up earlier, man, the Bills have not avoided the injury bug themselves. You have to scroll to see all of their injuries here. Yeah. So big guys. I mean, even Josh Allen's on the injury report with the left hand injury. It just seems like everybody on their team has got something or other going on. The big ones that are going to be impactful, Keon Coleman has already been listed out for the game. Amari Cooper has missed 3 weeks now with that wrist injury. He's still limited in practice. I know the reports are that he's saying he wants to play this game, but that doesn't determine whether or not you're actually going to. Dalton Kincaid hasn't practiced at all this week, so
he's not playing from what I understand
either.
Yeah, he's not playing.
Even their defense has a lot of injuries on there. Matt Milano, the outside linebacker, he's already been ruled out. So the Bills are missing a lot of key guys.
I thought Milano was out for the year. Is he not out for the year?
I don't know if he's out for the year or not.
Okay.
I think
he hasn't played at all, but I think
because he had a torn bicep.
Yeah.
So, but this is a team that my point is that this is a team that still has not avoided the injury. And there's a ton of other guys on there, but I really just don't want to spend the entire show just listing names.
Yeah.
So my point being is that there's a lot of key guys and a lot of starters that are either already ruled out or guys that have been limited and we're expecting them not to play.
Yeah. Well, don't expect to see Charles Omenihu this week. Do not expect to see Pacheco because neither one of them are playing. But it is nice to see them back. Juju will play. What's up, Will? Juju will play in a limited role, but he will play for limited role, I should say, for this game anyway. Unless he shows something to Andy that and the staff that he can be a full go. But I think they're probably going to put him on a count and just see how he progresses back into it. This is going to be a big game for Kareem Hunt. It's going to be a big game for D-Hop. I think it's even going to be a big game for Justin Watson. Strangely enough, Justin Watson does well against them. It's weird, but he does well. He's that over the middle guy, 7 to 15 yards. He's great. I have a feeling, and look, this might be a redemption game a little bit, and I shouldn't say redemption game. I guess it should be a game that he plays pretty well, and that's worthy. The one thing that you have to look at with this game too is Kareem Hunt right now is averaging, I think, about 4 yards a carry, maybe a little less. But the Bills give up about 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, that's exactly the point that I was going to make. They give up 4.9 yards a carry. They haven't given up the most rushing yards, but they also don't have nearly as many attempts against them as a lot of the other teams. And I think that's just because when the Bills are explosive and they're able to get up on some of these lesser defenses, teams obviously aren't running the ball as much. They've given up an 87-yard touchdown this year on the ground. Um, yeah, this is a team that their vulnerability definitely is in the run game, and Kansas City has seen that as a strength this year. So, we'll definitely, hopefully, the Chiefs are able to take advantage of that. They've given up 10, 20 plus yard carries, which makes it top. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the sixth most in the NFL. They've given up 3 40 plus yard carries, which is tied for the second most in the NFL. This is a run defense that not only allows a lot per play, but they've given up a lot of big chunk plays too.
Yeah, and I think their special teams has given up a lot of return yards too. And this might be a game for McCole Hardman or whoever they've had back there to take advantage of it, because they're not the strongest in punt returns. So hopefully we can jump out quick, whether it be through the run game or through a kick return, punt return, and just get the momentum and shifted in our way really quick. We're going to need that. We're playing in their house. They hate us. We all know that. And they're going to do everything they can to beat us. So we have to really, this is going to have to, I mean, even though they have a lot of injuries, so do we. So this is going to have to be mistake-free football to beat these guys. It's that simple. You can't have, thankfully, with the, with the emergence of D-Hop, it's really changed Mahomes' game. I mean, he's limited. His whole game went a 360. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception versus, have more interceptions than touchdowns, which is nice. But you still have to have no mistakes, and that's something that they're going to have to really work on, because thankfully we've got a great defense, but our offense really has to, and the red zone efficiency really has to go up. If we want to win this game, we have to score touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, luckily for Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown an interception in a couple weeks. So,
exactly.
Maybe we're starting to find, he's starting to get out of that funk that he was in, where he was throwing an interception every week. We talked about the problems with this team earlier in the week between, the offensive line, and I still think the wide receiver room has issues. But if you're getting Juju Smith-Schuster back, and a healthy Juju Smith-Schuster, even if he's just on the field for part of the time, if you're able to, keep spreading that defense thin, and I mean, this game's really going to come down to whether or not Kansas City can run the ball. If Kansas City can run the ball effectively, then I'm not worried about what this Chiefs offense looks like, because you're really able to take advantage of a weakness that is there. On the flip side, I think Kansas City needs to contain Josh Allen. I know that they've done a pretty good job of that in the past, but I do feel like that this game is going to come down to a lot of ball control, right? A lot of the ways that we talk about how teams want to beat Kansas City, keep Mahomes on the sideline, long extended drives, that sort of stuff. I feel like that's the way Kansas City can beat the Bills this time around. And I think the team is built exactly like that. But without having Butker, you definitely need to score touchdowns, because, that 45-yard field goal isn't a gimme.
No, it's not. It's not even a gimme. I mean, for him, it's somewhat of a gimme, but it's still, you can't put all that pressure on this guy that, just like I said, just came off of a 3-8 football team or 3-7 football team to a Super Bowl caliber team. That's a lot of pressure to put on him, to say, okay, I know there's 2 seconds left. Go out there and kick that 45, 48 yarder. Win this game for us. Show your worth. That's a lot of pressure, man. I wouldn't want to do that to him. So we really have to score. We have to score, get up big, stay up, and move forward. That's all we can do. Moving on, what's next?
I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. How do you think the Chiefs line up against the Bills' pass rush?
I want to say it's almost evenly matched. The Bills' pass rush has been okay at times and not okay at times. I think it's almost evenly matched. What do you think?
Well, I think that like we talked about, you know, the interior of the Chiefs' offensive line is damn good, right? Creed Humphrey
The
is
tackles
literally
are the problem. I mean,
right.
yeah,
You know, we talk about how the interior of the offensive line has been the strength. And if we're being honest about the Bills aren't a super creative defense. They don't do a ton of those crazy blitzes that we've seen from other teams, right? They don't do it, some of the stuff that like Spagnuolo does, or like what we saw with the Broncos last week, right? They don't do a ton of crazy stunts or anything like that. But I mean, they do have some beasts on that defensive line, and even on the interior of that defensive line. So I'm not worried as much as I was last week, just because I don't think the Bills defense is as good as the Broncos.
it's not.
But
Yeah,
I still
no,
think that Patrick Mahomes is going to get pressured.
I do too. I do too. But I think it's a little more even than again like the Broncos game. I mean, that was just one sided, and most of it wasn't from the interior. Of course, it's just from the tackles. We have to. I'm really glad Matt Milano is not playing. Um, Taylor is really going to have to step up in this game. I don't know if Wanya Morris is playing. I'm hearing he is, hearing he wants to play, but that doesn't mean he's going to play. So that's a scary that's a scary thought in its own. If because we already have struggles there, and then you slap Kingsley in, that's a rookie that's already shown that he's struggling in so far this year, or getting a grasp of everything. It makes me a little nervous. So yeah, Mahomes will scramble. I just don't want to see 4 or 5 sacks again.
Right. I mean, Ed Oliver is still on this team. You know, Ed Oliver is one hell of a defensive tackle.
He is.
They do have he has a sack on the year. Probably their best outside guy. I think what is it? AJ Espinosa.
Yeah.
He's got a few sacks on the year. I know sacks aren't everything, but
pressures are though.
So
I mean, pressures are everything.
Pressures are everything. Those are probably their best. Von Miller is a backup. We'll put in a backup role now. So, but they do have 2 outside edge rushers that have 5 or more sacks. So this is a team that isn't phenomenal at getting to the quarterback. They're also not incompetent.
Exactly. They're just that middle of the road defense that they have flashes, but a lot of times those flashes also. I mean, look who they played. We have to also look at who they played. If you look at the schedule that the Bills have had, who they've went up against, yeah, of course they're going to have games where they look like they're really good, and then they're when they go up against a really good interior, that may be a little different. We have the best interior in football. There's no doubt about that. They've not allowed 1 sack this season. They very rarely allow pressure. It's from the tackles that we have the issues. If Taylor can have one of his off games where he's playing good, and Wanya Morris, if he's playing, can get through the bone bruise, which that's what it is, and get through that and play through it, then we might be okay. Mahomes is really good at getting out of a situation. Last week, he was not very good at it, and it really wasn't his fault, but he had no time, 0 time from this. I mean, he had a millisecond to get out of the way, and it's virtually impossible. I don't think he's going to have that problem this week. I think he's actually realized, shit, I've got to move. I know what my tackles will do, what they won't do, so I've got to really step it up. And I think he'll be okay. I do see a sack for Mahomes this week, though. At least 1 sack. And there's no way it's inevitable for him not to be sacked. No matter who we're playing, it's inevitable for him not to be sacked right now. Unless, for some reason, Taylor just goes on some crazy run and decides he's going to actually play ball the way he should, and Kingsley's not playing. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but he's just too young and too raw to be playing right now. He's got to develop more.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, there's a reason why they've trusted Wanya Morris to play, and there's been 2 times that Wanya Morris has come out of a play due to injury. They put Kingsley in, and then Wanya Morris comes back in and plays the rest of the game. Right? There's a reason for that.
He said, I make it sound like we're going back to 2020. You know what? It's not that bad, but it very well could be. We didn't have an offensive line in 2020. I mean, everybody on the line in the Super Bowl was third and fourth string guys. Some of them didn't even play a snap all year. So it's not that bad, but those are the things that can get you in a lot of trouble against a really good football team or in the playoffs when you're playing somebody that because every team's it's a different football team in the playoffs. Everybody knows that. So you have to really be careful. Now, there's been a lot of talk. We've talked about it. And then it got kind of spread all over the league that Donovan Smith may be coming back. Still a possibility. Is it going to happen before this game? No. But it is a possibility, and I think it's a strong possibility, especially depending on what happens in this game. Given the fact that Wanya Morris is injured, their backup is Kingsley, a rookie, I would say give it until next Tuesday. And you'll probably hear a Donovan Smith sighting. With that being said, that's not going to help us at all for the next 3 or 4 weeks because he hasn't seen a football field in 9 months. He's not just going to transition into being the player he was last year. Not going to happen. So we have to really look, man, as much as it pains me to say this, I think Veach made a mistake this year. The one mistake there's two. One, he paid Taylor way too much money. But two, he should have brought Donovan Smith back and not put all that on a rookie. I know he thought Wanya Morris the two together were going to be able to handle it. It just didn't work out that way. That's too big of a gamble with the best quarterback in football. And that's a very important position to gamble with, especially on a rookie. I think they should have brought Donovan Smith back. Now, on the flip side of that, the beginning of the year, Donovan Smith was probably going to be a lot more money than he is week 10 or 11 as far as what his asking price is. At the beginning of the year, I'm sure he probably wanted a lot more money than Veach was willing to pay.
Yeah.
So, I understand that, but you still have to bite the bullet sometimes when it comes down to protecting your quarterback. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this week. This week is a test for the tackles, like I think none other, because this is the game of the year. This is the game of the regular season for the year. Everybody was waiting on this game. Everybody thinks Buffalo's going to knock us off, especially with Bucker not in there. Now, I'm sure everybody in Buffalo. By the way, did you see the jersey? The hoodie that was made. Got to look it up on X. A Buffalo Bills fan made a jersey a hoodie and a T-shirt that says the Buffalo Bills against the Kansas City Refs.
Okay.
Unbelievable, the amount of crying. They're crying on hoodies now. These fans with this ref shit is just getting old.
It's always been old.
It has. I mean, it's just
you know my opinion on that. Complaining about the refs is loser talk. And
it is. It's absolutely.
And I say that when Chiefs fans do it, and I'll say that when everybody else does it.
It's just amazing to me that it's a great little ploy to try to sell some merchandise, I guess. And you're going to get a lot of people that'll buy it because they're really their mentality. That's the sad part is they actually believe it. So it comes with the territory. Absolutely, it does. When you're a winner, it's everybody else's, helping you win. When you're a loser, nobody cares. So, but anyway, it's just kind of amazing to me. Do we know who the refs are in this game yet?
I have no idea, and I don't care.
I would care if it was Carl Sheffers. Anyway, I want to transition to one thing real quick. I'm going to ask you a question. Have you paid any attention to the Jets at all?
Yeah, because I want to feel validated when they, now that they've come out and they've sucked.
Well, it's Land Clark's crew. Okay. That might not be horrible. Yeah, they will. I I've said this really since week one, and I got a lot of flack on social media about this. Aaron Rodgers is done. He needs to retire now.
Yeah.
He's not going to. He's going to ride out the rest of the season. He may even try to come back next year because he's got to, as long as he plays that 2-year contract, that's $120 million he's putting in his pocket.
Well,
I mean, not that he's already worth a $300 or $400 million, but in the same aspect, why not add to your wealth? If you want to come out and be a scrub, come out and be a scrub. I have a weird feeling he probably won't play next year. I think he's going to retire after this season. But the Jets they put so much faith into him. They let him run the football team, by the way. They fired Robert Saleh. They fired their offensive coordinator. They have fired everybody. And yet the biggest problem on that football team is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. This is not news.
I don't know why. I don't understand how the team doesn't see it, though. The ownership doesn't see
it. I bet they do.
Maybe now, but how could you have not seen that before?
Or, well, because, these people, they get their heads so far up their ass, they can't see anything 2 feet in front of them. And so the thought process is, hey, we brought in Aaron Rodgers, and, they saw how the Buccaneers were able to go and win a Super Bowl when all they did was they brought in Tom Brady. And then even before that, you saw the Broncos were able to bring in Peyton Manning, and they won a Super Bowl. Now, those are very oversimplifying those situations.
Yeah.
But, that's what it comes down to, right? You saw that and you're like, hey, let's do this. We're going to see what Aaron Rodgers, he says, hey, we need this. We're going to go do that. He says this, we're going to go do that. The problem is that Aaron Rodgers wants to run an outdated offense. There's no pre-snap motion. There's no, complexity to the offense. It's let's run dig routes and slant routes, and that sort of stuff doesn't work in the NFL the way it used to when you were winning MVPs. Plus, he's not mobile anymore. A lot of the spectacular plays that Aaron Rodgers was able to make, and he was able to do, was him, stepping out of the box. It was him getting out of the pocket and making some great throws while on the run. Well, he can't run anymore because he blew his damn Achilles out, so he's not as mobile. And him trying to make those throws, it just doesn't happen anymore. So he has to duck and chuck because that offensive line is so bad. I mean, these issues compound and compound and compound. I never saw how this team was going to be successful moving forward, and I feel very good about it that they've been losing. Plus, Aaron Rodgers, kind of a dick, so, kind of nice to see him lose a little bit.
Yeah, it is. And, I guess if the Jets ownership and leadership is so ignorant that they looked at it and said, well, Brady did it. The Bucs did it with Brady. The Broncos did it with Manning. The difference was the Broncos had really good wide receivers, had really good running back, and a top 3 defense. The Bucs, they brought in 4 or 5 wide receivers to help. Plus, they had a Hall of Fame wide receiver, and then they brought in
a great defense
and a great
run game.
Absolutely, they had all of those things that the Jets do not have.
They truly were a quarterback away, quote unquote.
Exactly.
Whereas the Jets, well, they're the Jets, and they've been dysfunctional since, I don't know, forever.
Yeah. And they're 52 men away. They're not just a quarterback away. They're 52 players away.
Yeah. And then you go ahead, you fire the heart and soul of that defense, the thing that made you good. Oh, look, it fell apart. These are just, of course this was going to be. It's the only option.
So many dysfunctional franchises that are still in operation. It's amazing.
And you know what? Good. Dysfunctional franchises do dysfunctional things, and it helps out my Chiefs because I'm not a part of that.
That's absolutely true. What's next?
I actually wanted to talk about the Bills' offense here for a little bit because if you look at their games, they have scored 30-plus points in every game but 2 of them. Funny enough, one of them was their 23-20 win over the Jets. And their other one, I guess there's 3 games, and their other 2 were the losses they had against the Texans and the Ravens. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume. I'll speak for myself, and then I'll let you talk. I don't think the Bills are scoring 30 points, but I do think that they get to that 23 mark. And this is a team that in order for them to win, they have to get to that 30 mark. So I think that this Bills offense comes out looking great from the get-go, and it's going to turn into one of those games that, in the third quarter, they just can't get anything going. I think that's how this game looks, but I think it's going to be scary up front because this Bills offense is going to come out firing on all cylinders.
Well, and it could be the opposite. The Bills struggle usually, they have struggled this year in the first half of games. I mean, I remember one game, I think it was week 4, Allen had like 38 yards.
Well, that was against the Baltimore game, and that's when they just got totally blown out, where the Ravens scored 35 points on them.
But let's look at something, though. The two teams that beat them are the only two teams with a winning record. Everybody else that they beat has not been good. It's either a 500 team or below. If I'm not mistaken.
I mean, they beat the Cardinals early in the year.
Well, yeah, but the Cardinals early in the year they were kind of dysfunctional in the early in the year, and they still are to some degree.
I mean, I understand your point. Like we're getting into some new, like the Seahawks. I think they're above 500, but they're hovering right around there. So I think your point is correct in the sense that they haven't faced a ton of tough teams. They've got some mediocre wins on their schedule.
They really do.
I understand your point there.
I mean, look at some of the teams that they played, and honestly, that's what gives me a little bit of comfort is knowing that Spagnuolo normally doesn't let them score a lot of points anyway. And now they're struggling. This year, they look like they're better than they are because of who they play, but they have yet to play a top 5 defense. So I'm not as concerned about this game as I was a week ago. I'm a little more concerned now because Butker's not in it, but we tend to play down to our opponent like we talk about every week. I don't want us to come into this game with either an intimidation factor because the Bills are, one of the better teams that we're, I guess, record-wise, one of the better teams we're facing, or come in lackadaisical. I don't want any of that. I just want them to come in, play hard football, win the game, go home smiling, 10-0.
And then we'll, play 3 more games.
Yeah.
Butker gets back.
Exactly.
I do think that, and of course I hope I'm wrong, but I think that, the Bills come out and they come out ready to go, and I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the first quarter into the second quarter if the Bills have they've scored 17 points already. I do think that this Bills offense can get going. Now, if Amari Cooper doesn't play, then I do think that changes it a little bit, just because they are so injured. But I still think that, this Bills offense with Josh Allen, I still think that they could get up, 10-0, 10-3 pretty quickly in the game. And it'll look kind of like the Denver game where for the most part, this Bills team is leading for most of the game.
Here's something Philip just said, and I didn't see this. He said the Bills are in trouble against Kareem Hunt and Perrine. They're the worst defense against pass-catching running backs this season. But we have the best pass-catching running back in Kareem Hunt. And I got to tell you, P. Ryan's not too far behind.
And we had, our leading passer last week was Kareem Hunt. So
exactly.
Which is more of an issue of the offense, just looking at it. But yeah.
But we know what he can do. He's always been able to do that.
Yeah.
He is the best pass-catching running back in football. There's not a better one out there. Nobody can name one because there isn't one. I think that's going to be a huge advantage. Huge advantage. Having Kareem Hunt back in this mix has been huge. And as much as I love Pacheco, he's not that good at catching.
No, Kareem Hunt's just better. And I'll say it, and I'll keep saying again that I was so wrong about, bringing Kareem Hunt back and his impact. I thought it was going to be a good thing, but he has blown my expectations out of the water. So,
do you know he's on pace for like 1,200 yards?
Really?
1,200 yards, dude. He's almost got, I think he's got over 600 right now, real close to 600. That's insane. 5 games and almost 600 yards.
Well, it really is. It really tells you the problems that the Chiefs have had on offense.
Exactly.
That's what that really tells you.
It does. To see an Andy Reid offense run as much as they have, 20-plus carries a game, with a 29-year-old running back that is just killing it, that tells you something, especially, in our wide receiver.
I also think that we need to give Andy Reid credit for that. Maybe we haven't talked about this enough or at all. But we need to give credit to Andy Reid for being willing to adjust in the midseason. I mean, that's a huge adjustment for him. How many times have we watched this goddamn team and we're like, could you please just run the ball like maybe 4 more times? And he's been able to do that. I mean, this is a guy that since the like mid 2000s has done nothing but pass the ball, and he's been leading the passing NFL for over a decade now, close to 2 decades. And this year there was a decision made based on all the injuries and how good the interior offensive line is. It's like, hey, we're going to run the ball, and then we're going to bring in a guy, and we're going to keep running the ball. And it's a total flip on his style of offense, and it takes a lot to be able to sort of accept that and to be able to do it effectively. And I don't know if there are many coaches out there that would be able to do it.
I agree. It's kind of like asking Jim Harbaugh to commit to the pass. That's not going to happen. Right. He doesn't like the, so Andy has really done a good job. Oh, absolutely. I mean, how could you not trust him, though? He does things that a lot of running backs can't do. He's like the older brother to Saquon Barkley in a lot of ways, because they do have similar running styles. The difference is that Barkley is a very good pass catcher, but he's not as good as Kareem. Barkley is he breaks tackles really well. He's done wonders in Philly.
He can leap over guys backwards.
He can leap over guys backwards. But I don't know. Kareem just has a fire in him that just doesn't want to go away. And now that he's back with us, that fire is rejuvenated. He doesn't care how many times he carries the ball. I love it. He said the Bills' kickoff coverage unit is allowed 31.7 yards per return. See what I mean?
Yeah,
that's what I was talking about earlier. Yeah. That's insane. I mean, that gives McCole a huge advantage.
Field position, I think, is going to be, a great impact on this game. I mean, we were talking about going back to the Denver game, right? There were so many times that Denver was given short fields, right? Yeah. And it really forced, Kansas City's defense was good enough to force them to punt the ball. But the problem is that when the Chiefs offense, it couldn't get anything going. Every time that Ariza went out to punt it, you were still giving the Denver offense good quality field position. So if that's a benefit that Kansas City can get, and maybe you're sort of flipping that this week, that's a huge deal. I mean, even if it's just, you're talking about a 20-yard difference, that's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. I mean, I don't think people realize the difference between what 20 yards can do, especially for a team like Mahomes, or even our quarterback like Mahomes. And then if you give it to another, like if we gave it to another team, you don't want to give Allen any more leverage than he already has, regardless of the situation, because he'll run for 20 yards. We know that. He'll pound it in the end zone. He doesn't care. He'll hurt himself. He doesn't care. So the special teams on both sides have to be really good. They have to really, again, this has got to still be mistake-free football. And this is a good opportunity for this team to really hone in on their craft, get themselves gelled up, and play a football team that is 8-2 and say, okay, well, let's just go out and stomp their ass. They can do that. They don't have to. Andy doesn't have to be so fucking nice. And sometimes I think the respect level he has for everybody is great and all, but sometimes he has to just put his foot down and go, fuck it, let's just run the ball down their throat. Let's score about 7 touchdowns and move forward. He just never has that mentality.
Yeah,
it's got to be a statement.
I mean, it's not going to happen, but
I know.
I like the thought.
Me too. I love Andy, but man, he just sometimes I wish he just had that little bit of a mean streak in him. He just doesn't have it. He's just not a mean guy. He's just not. So, anyway, what's next?
That's all I have in my list over here.
All right. Well, what about score predictions here?
I do think, man. Usually, I like to throw a field goal or two in my score prediction, but I'm not sure.
Oh, it's hard.
It is. If the Bills weren't so injured, I would probably pick the Bills to win this game. Just because
because you want to piss me off or what?
Well, look, I've rejected the Chiefs going undefeated this year, right? Just because I don't think it's going to happen, and just because it's so hard to do that in
fucking
football.
Philip
right?
Just stole my fucking score.
There's a reason why every year the 72 Dolphins are able to pop the champagne bottles, So, God, I guess I'll pick the Chiefs, whatever. We'll say 27-24. I'll give the Chiefs an option to either they kick 2 field goals or they miss a PAT.
Well, Thiz has got 28-27 Chiefs. He says it's a 1-point game. I think it's going to be a 7-point game. I'm going to say 27-20 because Philip stole my score at 27-17.
Yeah.
So, and he says if it's close, 28-23. I'm going to say 27-20.
Well,
I don't even really see a field. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, the Chiefs are underdogs again. They're 2.5-point underdogs. And I'll say this. Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs are 11-3 in straight up, winning games that they're underdogs. And the 3 times that they've been underdogs, the score has either been tied or they've been winning at the 2-minute mark when they've been underdogs. Yeah. So it was against the Rams in that Monday Night Football game. The score was tied. It was against the Patriots. And then what was the other one? Oh, it was against the Bills in the 2020 Bills.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 times that they've been tied or they had the lead with 2 minutes to go when they were underdogs. And they ended up losing the game. So, this is Kansas City's been a pretty good underdog team.
Well, Will's got a point. He says, I think Juju's going to help open up D-Hop and Travis. And I agree. I think he will too. As long as he's out on the field, he'll help open them up.
You just hope that, it's not like last time where he was good to go and then he stepped out on the field for 3 plays and his hamstring, got lost again.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's pretty healed up or they wouldn't even have him ready because they know he's kind of prone to have hamstring issues. So, and knee issues. Those are the 2 things he's prone for. So I think Andy's pretty cautious about things. So I think he's probably pretty good to go. Even if he's out there and he's just a decoy, that's a huge help for D-Hop and Travis. Absolutely. And for everybody else, I mean, even Noah Gray has really stepped up this year. I kind of expect a lot out of Noah Gray this week too. I think he's going to be a huge help in the offense this week. So, well, now we got our score predictions done. So I guess that's about it for today.
Yeah.
We can what time is that? Is that a noon game Sunday?
No, it's a 3:25 game.
3:25 game.
It's the only 3:25 game on CBS.
That's right.
So the entire country will be watching.
Yeah. Well, we can probably do a show after that if we got time.
Yep.
So we will talk to you guys Sunday after the game, win or lose. Hopefully it's a win. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for joining.